Sometimes, the best intentions lead to the worst discoveries. What started as a heartfelt surprise trip to Boston with my children quickly turned into a nightmare I never saw coming. One hotel door, one moment of truth, and 17 years of marriage suddenly hung in the balance. They say what happens in hotel rooms stays there, but some secrets refuse to remain hidden. My name is Michael Anderson, and to my friends. I'm 50 years old, have been married to my wife Rebecca for almost 20 years, and we have two great kids, Curtis, who is 15 and growing faster than I can keep up with, and Sophie, my 10-year-old princess who still thinks her dad hangs the moon. That Wednesday morning started like any other during Becca's business trips, me trying to wrangle the kids through breakfast before school. Curtis, with his head buried in his phone, Sophie picking at her cereal, and me, gulping down coffee like it was the elixir of life. Becca had been gone for 3 days on a consulting job in Boston, for more to go, 7 days total, longer than her usual trips, and we were all feeling it. I love my wife, so while she was on a business trip, our kids and I decided to surprise her by flying to see her. The idea hit me like a thunderbolt while watching Sophie push her Cheerios around the bowl. "Hey, what if we went to see Mom this weekend?" I said, setting down my mug. Sophie's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "Really? To show up?" "Yeah." I nodded, feeling the excitement build. "We could book flights today, be there by tomorrow evening." Imagine her face when she opens her hotel door. Curtis finally looked up from his phone. "That would actually be pretty cool," he said, which from a teenager is practically jumping for joy. By noon, I called in a favor at work to take Friday off, arranged for the kids to miss school, and booked 3 tickets to Boston. The whole time I kept picturing Rebecca's face, the shock, the joy, the tears maybe. I hadn't surprised her like this in years. I tried calling her that morning, but it went straight to voicemail, not unusual during her intensive consulting sessions. I sent a text, "Miss you, kids are asking when you're coming home. Love you." No response, which was a little strange, but I figured she was just swamped. That evening, as I packed our bags, I tried her again, still nothing. A small knot formed in my stomach, but I dismissed it. Boston was in the middle of hosting a major business conference. She was probably networking, making connections, doing what she did best. The consulting world was competitive, and Rebecca was a shark in high heels. As I tucked Sophie in that night, she clutched her favorite stuffed bunny to her chest. "Do you think Mommy will cry when she sees us?" she asked, eyes wide with anticipation. "Maybe, sweetheart," I said, kissing her forehead. "It's going to be the best surprise ever." I had no idea then how wrong I was. No idea that the surprise waiting in Boston wasn't ours to give, but rather one that would shatter our family into pieces. The flight to Boston wasn't long, but it felt like an eternity. Curtis had his headphones on, lost in whatever music teenagers listen to these days, while Sophie chatted nonstop about all the things she wanted to tell her mom. Meanwhile, I sat between them, fighting an increasing sense of unease. I tried calling Rebecca 3 more times before we boarded. Nothing, just straight to voicemail, not even a ring. I sent another text. "Hope your meetings are going well, miss you." The food delivered notification appeared, but no response came. "Dad, why are you checking your phone every 5 seconds?" Curtis asked, briefly pulling off his headphones. The kid never missed a thing. "Just making sure our rental car is confirmed," I lied, forcing a smile. But the truth was, something felt off. Rebecca and I had been married for almost 20 years. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but she'd never gone this long without communication before. She always made time for the kids, at least. When we landed at Logan Airport, I tried once more, voicemail again. I left a message this time, keeping my tone light. "Hey babe, just checking in. Give me a call when you get a chance." The rental car process was a nightmare. Wrong reservation, long lines, Sophie needing the bathroom twice. By the time we hit the road toward downtown Boston, it was already past 8 in the evening. Rush hour traffic had cleared, but the city streets were alive with Thursday night energy. "Dad, I'm hungry," Sophie whined from the back seat. "Me too," Curtis chimed in, finally engaged in something besides his phone. Can we eat before we see Mom? Let's get to the hotel first, I said, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. Maybe Mom can join us for a late dinner. As we neared the Marriott where Rebecca was staying, that knot in my stomach tightened. I tried calling once more, and this time, oddly, it rang, but still no answer. The hotel's revolving doors welcomed us with a whoosh of warm air. The lobby was elegant, with marble floors and soft lighting. Curtis and Sophie looked around, impressed by the upscale surroundings. My wife always stayed at nice places on her company's dime. Why don't you guys wait here? I told them, pointing to some plush couches. I'll check us in and find out which room Mom's in. Sophie bounced on her toes. Can we surprise her right, eh? Way? I nodded, forcing enthusiasm I no longer felt. That's the plan, sweetheart. As I approached the front desk, I had no idea I was walking toward the moment that would change everything. Good evening, sir. How can I help you? The receptionist, a young woman with a professional smile, greeted me. I cleared my throat. I'd like to check in, and I also need to get in touch with my wife, who's staying here, Rebecca Anderson. Her fingers danced across the keyboard. Let me check that for you. A moment passed. Yes, Mrs. Anderson is staying with us. Would you like me to ring her room? Please, I said, relief washing over me. At least Rebecca was here. The receptionist dialed, waited, then frowned slightly. I'm sorry, sir, there's no answer. Can you try again? I asked, that knot in my stomach tightening. Maybe she didn't hear it. She tried once more, with the same result. I'm sorry, there's still no answer. Would you like to leave a message? No, that's okay. I handed over my credit card. We'll just check in for now. My wife is expecting us, sort of. It's a surprise visit. A flicker of hesitation crossed her face. I see. Well, let me get you set up. She processed our reservation, then handed me 2 key cards. You're in room 732. Mrs. Anderson is in 718. Different floors? I asked, confused. No, same floor, just down the hall from each other. She paused, then added, It looks like Mrs. Anderson checked in with a +1, though. The world stopped spinning for a moment at +1. What do you mean? The receptionist's expression shifted to discomfort. The reservation shows 2 guests in the room. I assumed, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. I forced a laugh that sounded hollow even to my own ears. No, that's fine. Probably a colleague sharing the room to save on expenses. But I knew better. Rebecca's company always sprang for private rooms for its consultants. It was a point of pride for them. I collected our bags and walked back to Curtis and Sophie, my mind racing. A work friend? A female colleague? Or... I couldn't bring myself to complete the thought. Did you find Mom? Sophie asked, bouncing with excitement. Not yet, sweetheart. Let's go up to our room first and freshen up. The elevator ride was silent, except for Sophie's humming. Curtis shot me a look. He sensed something was off but thankfully kept quiet. Our room was nice, standard high-end hotel fare. I set the bags down and took a deep breath. Can we go see Mom now? Sophie pleaded. In a minute. Why don't you need to wash up? It's been a long day. While they were occupied, I slipped into the hallway and made my way towards Rebecca's room. Walked to room 718. My heart hammered against my ribs as I raised my hand to knock. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Still nothing, but I could hear movement inside, faint music, the sound of laughter. My blood ran cold. I pulled out my phone and typed, I'm outside your hotel room door, open up. The movement inside stopped abruptly, then a muffled male voice. I closed my eyes, suddenly certain of what I would find on the other side of that door. The door to room 718 opened slowly, revealing Rebecca in a hotel bathrobe, her hair disheveled, face flushed. Her expression cycled through shock, fear, and finally settled on something that looked strangely like annoyance. Jason, what are you doing here? She hissed, stepping into the hallway and pulling the door nearly closed behind her. I stared at her, momentarily speechless. After a beat, I found my voice. "Surprise," I said flatly. "The kids and I thought we'd come see you." Her eyes widened. "The kids are here? At the hotel? In our room down the hall?" My voice sounded distant, even to myself. "They've been excited all day to see you." Rebecca ran a hand through her hair, glancing nervously back at her door. "You should have called first, Mike. You should have called." I did multiple times. I crossed my arms. "Who's in your room, Becca?" She flinched at the direct question. "It's not what you think." "Really? Because I think you have another man in there. Am I wrong?" The door opened wider, and a man appeared behind her, tall, fit, maybe early 40s. He was buttoning up his shirt. "Becca, is everything okay out here?" My vision tunneled, focusing on this stranger who called my wife by her nickname, my nickname for her. "Who the hell are you?" I demanded, my voice dangerously quiet. "Mike, please," Rebecca started, but I cut her off. "No, I want to hear from him." I stepped closer. "Who are you, and why are you in my wife's hotel room?" The man looked confused, glancing between Rebecca and me. "I'm Trevor, from the Chicago office." He extended his hand automatically, then thought better of it, and withdrew it. "I didn't know Becca was married." The words hit me like a physical blow. I turned to Rebecca, who had the decency to look ashamed, but not ashamed enough. "You told him you were single?" My voice was barely a whisper now. Rebecca closed her eyes briefly. "Can we please not do this in the hallway? Trevor, maybe you should go." "Yeah, Trevor," I echoed, my anger finding a target. "Maybe you should go." Trevor raised his hands in surrender. "Look, man, I had no idea. She never mentioned a husband or kids." He grabbed his jacket from inside the room. "I'm out of here." He hurried past us, down the hallway, leaving Rebecca and me alone in a silence so thick it felt suffocating. 17 years, Becca," I finally said. 17 years, and you're picking up guys on business trips? It's not like that," she snapped, her shame morphing into defensiveness. "You don't understand." "Then explain it to me. Explain why our children flew across the country to surprise their mother, only to find her with another man." She looked away. "You should have called first." Those words, the audacity of them, broke something in me. "Are you serious right now? This isn't my fault because I didn't warn you before catching you cheating?" "Lower your voice," she hissed, glancing down the hallway. "The kids are waiting," I said, stepping back. "Sophie has been bouncing off the walls all day about seeing you. What do you want to tell her?" Guilt finally seemed to register on her face. "Give me 5 minutes to get dressed. I'll come to your room." I turned to walk away, then paused. "How long has this been going on, Rebecca?" She couldn't meet my eyes. "This was just a one-time thing, a mistake." Trevor's words echoed in my head. "I didn't know Becca was married." It wasn't a mistake, it was a choice. And as I walked back to our room to face our children, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. The walk back to our room felt like crossing a desert. Each step required enormous effort, my body suddenly heavy with the weight of what had just happened. How was I supposed to face my children now? What could I possibly tell them? I paused outside our door, taking a deep breath and forcing my face into something resembling normalcy. The keycard beeped, and I pushed the door open. "Dad, did you find Mom?" Sophie jumped up from the bed where she'd been watching TV. Curtis looked up from his phone, eyes narrowing as he studied my expression. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately, too perceptive for his own good. "Mom's coming in a few minutes," I managed. "She was surprised to see us." Sophie clapped her hands. "Is she happy? Did she cry?" "She was definitely surprised," I said, avoiding Curtis's searching gaze. "Hey, why don't we order some room service? You guys must be hungry after the flight." "Already ahead of you," Curtis said, still watching me carefully. "We ordered burgers and fries, and chocolate cake," Sophie added, bouncing on the bed. I nodded, trying to smile. Perfect. A knock at the door made Sophie leap up. Mom's here! Before I could stop her, she flung open the door and launched herself at Rebecca, who stood in the hallway, looking completely composed, hair brushed, makeup fixed, wearing a professional outfit. If I hadn't seen her 10 minutes ago in a bathrobe with a half-dressed man, I would never have guessed anything was amiss. Mommy! Sophie squealed, wrapping her arms around Rebecca's waist. Ah, sweetheart, Rebecca said, hugging her back. What a surprise to see you all. Her eyes met mine over Sophie's head, and I saw the silent plea in them. Play along for the kids. Curtis hadn't moved from his spot on the bed. Hey, Mom, he said, his tone carefully neutral. Rebecca crossed the room and kissed the top of his head. Hey, buddy. You've grown since I left. It's been a week, Mom, he replied dryly. An awkward silence followed, broken by Sophie's enthusiastic recounting of our journey. Rebecca listened and nodded occasionally, glancing at me, but I couldn't bring myself to meet her eyes. Dad said we could all have dinner together, Sophie finished. Room service is coming with burgers. Rebecca's smile faltered slightly. That sounds wonderful, but I actually have a work dinner tonight. Important clients. I barked out a laugh that I quickly disguised as a cough. Sophie's face fell. But we came all this way to see you, she protested. I know, honey, and I'm so happy you did. I'll be all yours tomorrow, I promise. We can see the sights, do whatever you want. Rebecca turned to me. Can I talk to you in the hallway for a minute, Mike? Curtis rolled his eyes. Real subtle, Mom. I followed Rebecca outside, making sure to leave the door slightly ajar in case Sophie needed me. Work dinner? I said once we were alone. Is that what you're calling it now? Rebecca's artificial composure cracked slightly. Mike, please. I need time to figure this out. Figure what out? How to lie to your family? Because you seem to have that down pat. Rebecca flinched as if I'd slapped her. That's not fair. Not fair? I kept my voice low, mindful of the kids just inside. You know what's not fair, Rebecca? Our daughter made us check 3 different stores for her favorite travel pillow so she could bring it to you. Curtis actually put his phone down long enough to help me book the flights. Do you have any idea how excited they were to see you? Her eyes welled with tears. Mike, I made a terrible mistake, I know that. But please don't tell the kids, not yet. So I'm supposed to pretend. Look softened, seeing Sophie awake. We're not fighting, sweetie. We're just having a grown-up talk. I shifted Sophie more comfortably in my arms, trying to keep my tone gentle for her sake. Yeah, Mom and I are just figuring some things out. Sophie's tired eyes moved between us, sensing the tension despite our reassurances. Is everything okay? Everything's going to be okay, I affirmed, giving her a small squeeze. Let's get you into bed. Rebecca opened the door as Curtis emerged from his room, his face set in a hard line. He glanced at his mother, then at me, and without a word, helped me with Sophie. As I tucked Sophie into bed, her little hand clutched mine. Don't be mad at Mommy, Daddy, she whispered. I'm not mad, sweetheart, I lied, my heart aching. I'm just a little upset. But don't worry, we both love you very much. Sophie nodded sleepily, accepting this simplified version of adult complexities. Love you, Daddy, she murmured before her eyes fluttered closed. I kissed her forehead and stood, finding Rebecca waiting outside the door. Her face was anxious, her eyes searching mine for some sign of forgiveness or at least understanding. Mike, can we talk now? She asked quietly. I nodded stiffly. We need to figure out how we're going to handle this. For the kids. Rebecca followed me into the living area of the suite, her posture tense. I know I've made a huge mistake. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, or even at all, but I need to make this right for the kids. We need to be honest with them, Becca, I said firmly. Starting with how we're going to explain this situation. She flinched at the bluntness of my words. I know, but let's not rush into telling Sophie. She's too young to understand. Curtis already knows, I pointed out. He's old enough and he figured it out himself. Rebecca winced. I know. I'm sorry. It wasn't right what I did. Not to you, not to them. I sighed, the weight of the entire conversation pressing down on me. What happens next? Are you planning to stay with the firm? Continue these trips? She hesitated, then said, I've been offered a big promotion. It would mean more travel, more responsibility. And more temptations? I couldn't help but add. Rebecca looked away, guilt written all over her face. I want to fix this, Mike. Maybe I should turn down the promotion. Stay closer to home. I considered her words, the future of our family hanging in the balance. We need to think about what's best for Sophie and Curtis. If that means making changes, then we have to be open to them. We will, she agreed, nodding slowly. I'll do whatever it takes. The silence that followed was filled with both promise and uncertainty. We were at a crossroads, and the path we chose now would define our family's future. As we sat there, the sounds of the city humming through the window, I realized that this was not just about forgiveness or anger. It was about what we, as a family, would become after this. The challenges were immense, but in that moment, I knew we had to face them together, for our children's sake, if nothing else. Let's start with counseling, I suggested. For both of us, and maybe for Curtis too. He's been through a lot. Rebecca nodded, relief and resolve in her eyes. Yes, let's do that. And whatever it takes to rebuild trust. As we agreed to take those first tentative steps toward healing, I felt a slight easing of the burden I'd been carrying. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start, a commitment to mend what had been broken and to protect our children from the fallout of our mistakes. This extensive and emotional script portrays a deeply personal and heart-wrenching family drama, highlighting themes of betrayal, trust, and the complexities of relationships. The dialogue effectively captures the emotional turbulence experienced by the characters, allowing the audience to empathize deeply with their struggles. The narrative unfolds in a compelling and realistic manner, drawing the viewer into the family's intimate and painful moments. The script's strength lies in its raw depiction of the consequences of infidelity and the impact it has on family dynamics. The interactions between the characters are charged with tension and emotion, making each scene a poignant exploration of their internal conflicts and desires. The character development is robust, with each individual responding to the crisis in ways that reflect their personalities and relationships. Furthermore, the script adeptly handles the themes of forgiveness and the possibility of new beginnings, offering a nuanced view of personal growth and change. The resolution, while not providing a conventional happy ending, is thoughtfully crafted, presenting a realistic portrayal of how people might begin to heal and move forward after profound betrayal. Overall, this script offers a compelling drama that delves into the challenges of maintaining relationships and the resilience required to navigate life's unexpected trials. Its emotional depth and realistic dialogue make it a powerful piece that would resonate with audiences looking for stories of human strength and vulnerability.